coming tonight. It's a great pleasure for me to be doing this with Anouchka. We met at a march about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was an animal rising march, and we met through a friend who's an activist, and we just chatted away a lot about all kinds of things. And then one thing led to another, and we were at a festival, I think a year later. It was the medicine festival, and Anouchka told me about this book that she was writing, and she hadn't found a publisher yet, I think, and she was like this and that, and titles, and then she said, it's called The Revolution Will Be Internalized. And I just thought, yes, that is a title. That's such a good title. And I wonder whether we could just kick off with that question. Anouchka, tell us about the title. Where did that come from?
Well, obviously from Gil Scott-Heron, and that amazing song, like one of the most sort of interesting, important songs in pop history, and on this sort of bridge between jazz and hip hop, and coming out of the hippie thing and situationism, and it's kind of the song that's got everything and does everything. But it's sort of, I couldn't think what to call the book, because I still don't know. When people say, what's your book about, I just don't know what to say. And at least that title was like really quick. It's like, okay, you can say that and it kind of makes sense. But I've got this sort of terrible bad conscience about the title as well, because I think no white person should be going anywhere near that title, basically. But the book is kind of about whiteness and the construction of whiteness and the deconstruction of whiteness and whatever. So I'm just treating it at the moment as a kind of koan, like what the fuck, the book is called that.
And let the critics decide, let there be comeback, let there be people writing about you, about the writer. Over time, maybe people will write about it. And also, did you get, because I wanted to talk to you about Shirley Cranach, who was kind of like, you know, you say that's how it all started, but when did you get the title? Did you get the title like later or early?
Yeah, I mean, when Shirley Cranach shouted at me that there was no book, there was no nothing. There was just, I was sort of involved in campaigning around the mental health impact of climate change, emergency, etc. And so I was just there because of that. So I wasn't, you know, kind of studying and thinking, oh, this is going to be a thing for my book. I was just there.
So tell us about, has anyone here actually even have read the book yet? Okay, there's a few. Okay, so the book. So Anouchka says it all started with Shirley Cranach. I wonder if you could tell us who she is and what happened.
Yeah, she is an incredible Indigenous orator, and she was here because after COP, the Glasgow COP that was delayed because of the pandemic, there was a sort of huge thing happening there where loads of First Nations people had come to the conference because they thought they were going to be given a voice, and that was going to be a place for them to speak and have, you know, say what was happening in the places where they live, etc. They got there, having crowd-funded the trips. It was, you know, nobody was paying for them, there wasn't money that was sort of free-flowing. And they got to the conference and realised that they weren't being let into any meetings where anything important was being decided. Wow. They were just there for photo opportunities for whatever, men in suits. And so a theatre director called Simon McBurney invited everyone who'd been kind of disenfranchised at COP to come and do a last-minute thing at the Roundhouse before they all went home. And so everyone who hadn't been able to speak suddenly was able to speak to a really tiny audience of activists and journalists, and probably, not who they expected to be speaking to. And Shirley gave this like power speech, just unbelievable, overwhelming speech about what had happened to the river in the community where she lived, how it had been destroyed by an Australian mining company called BHP, how it just impacted everyone's lives, how, you know, people had died. It was just this sort of like mega catastrophe. And so, I was in the front row and she was like shouting it at me as if, you know, because she had to shout it at someone and I was there. And I had this thing, this is in the book, but this sort of bad conscience white person thing of like, but I'm a campaigner, you were meant to shout it at them.
Don't shout at me, I'm good.
All this thing. And then in the bar afterwards, there was this sort of second half where she came up to me and said, I don't know whether I should say it, because I really want people to read the book. But
Tracy, give us
okay.
a sort of a hint of what she said.
She said she cast a spell on me in the bar. A good spell.
Okay, and here we are.
And here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. The rest of my life is devoted to fulfilling the spell that she cast.
There you go. So this book has been witched.
Yeah.
Has been
big time
spelled into the world.
Yeah.
Great. It has a feel. It does have a feel of that as well. It has it's very idiosyncratic. It's very its own thing. So it's a cri de coeur, really. It's like Anouchka, I've spent a lot of time in the climate movement, and it's like doing a kind of passive PhD in climate studies, isn't it? It's you meet a lot of people, you march a lot, you cry. It's not good. People burn out, etc. And but in this book, you say you're basically asking, what has advanced industrial modernity done to us? What has it done to us? I'm going to read from here. Where does this start and we begin? Does that make so much sense? Where does these concerns I think advanced industrial capitalism is in its death throes. I think Trump is like a kind of tin dinosaur going, ah, drill baby drill, ah, and he's just going to die and fall over. That's possibly really positive thinking, but I think we're watching what's going on. It's never been in my lifetime worse to look around and put the news on. And what you're saying is, where's the boundary? But it's us. It's become us, which is what you're saying in your book. You say we've been blindsided, absorbed by modes of inhabiting the world, which stops us from seeing the bigger picture. True. You say we've been conditioned by ideologies we can't even name. We've been taught to compete, hoard, disassemble, and we've been trained without our consent. I can't tell you how good it is when somebody basically articulates something that you didn't even know needed to be articulated. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I've been conditioned all my life. I'm 60 years old without consent. My head is full of ideas. I didn't even ask to be put there, and we look around. Can you say a bit more about what it takes? Because your book is about deconditioning and decapitalising ourselves from the inside. What's this going to take?
Good question.
In your tiny book.
Yeah, I suppose the book also says you don't have to join the same cult as me. Like I found a way to do something, but people find different ways to do it. But I think it was a bit in contrast to things like the unconscious bias training workshops, like these corporate workshops, where you get told, things are bad, you're bad, structural things are happening, and if you just do it a bit more nicely, then you can go back to work and keep doing it a bit more nicely. And it doesn't really impact people very much. In fact, there are all these studies about things like aversive racism, where people sort of become aware of their unconscious racism, so they just avoid any encounters with black or brown people, or that just all these things that people can do to stop this unraveling. But basically, we're all in the Truman Show in one way or another. And how do you wake up out of that? How do you realise the magnitude of it, the way it impacts your
how do we get
wishes,
out of this?
your desires, the bodies you desire, the food you eat, everything, your pleasures, your dreams, your everything has been conditioned by this stuff. And it's stuff that's, sort of damaging and extractive and sinister, and it's an unbearable kind of identity crisis to realise that whatever you think is you is partly built from this stuff. It's a horror.
And so you're advocating that we can start to unpick it all from the inside.
Yeah, that is the theory. Yeah, exactly. And not to be too sort of dewy-eyed about it, because it's hard. But that, I suppose to start thinking about how it might be possible and to really accept that it's a proper crisis, a proper collapse, a proper kind of unravelling, rather than a kind of read Robin DiAngelo and go, all right then, I'm done.
It's a long, slow process.
Yeah.
I mean, so in this book, I really see it's divided into theory and practice.
Yeah.
And the theory side of it, I'm just like, yes, somebody's just chunked into Marx, Freud, Lacan, everybody. All these books have just been like, just completely compressed into things that you just go, yes, somebody's done it. I don't have to read 45 books. It's all here in 20 pages, and it's all, you've compressed it. And very few people have got an ability to like think deeply, critically, analytically, academically about this, and go out there, as you say in the second part of the book, into the woo, and go out there. I mean, we've both written books. Yours reminds me of mine a bit. When I was writing a book, which is completely different but sort of similar,
really good.
I was so grief-stricken. I didn't really care what people thought of me.
Yeah.
I just didn't care enough that I might hurt myself or invite criticism or whatever it was, you know. I just had to break something open. I just had to bust out of the grief.
Yeah.
And yours reminds me a bit of that. You were prepared to almost do anything to like make this change, to make these leaps again and again into almost anything. Do you want to talk a bit about grief being maybe part of what
I guess
got you out there?
Yeah, definitely. That seems a really good analogy, and I hadn't thought of it. But with the climate stuff, like once you start to engage with it, I'd written a children's book about the climate emergency, and that just fucks your head. Like nobody should write a children's book about that, and children shouldn't have to read it, shouldn't exist. And so yeah, I spent a while on that and was just destroyed by the end. I just didn't know what to do. And I suppose so we meet so many people like in activism. I'm sure you know that's the state for many of us, like these sort of walking wounded people. And you know, this eco-philosopher called Timothy Morton has this idea of the ecological thought, that it's like a sublime thought. It's too much. You almost can't have this thought. It's so overwhelming. And he calls it a hyper-object. And so it's
a hyper-object?
Yeah, it's something that you
What,
can't
you mean the end of the world? Or climate crisis?
The sort of collapse of ecosystems. And the whole geopolitical it's too much, and so if you even go near it, you end up being like, so it was how to do that without just becoming really bitter and cranky and awful and putting everybody else off as well, because I suppose that's the other thing you see in the climate movement is some very, very angry people having an awful time. That was the other thing that was, you know, I was an angry person having an awful time, but I didn't want to all just get together and have an awful time. I just thought there must be something else. And so, with this Shirley Krenak thing, she showed the route to something else.
Okay, can you keep talking? Then what happened? Then what happened?
I don't know what to say.
Then what happened?
Then I went and did it.
Let's talk about somatic activism.
Okay.
Because I wondered whether you'd made that word up, but you haven't. Let's talk about it.
It's real.
Tell us what that is. What's that?
It is, so it's to do with this stuff, with the way we sort of embody and incorporate various ideologies. It's to do with sort of untangling somatically from those ideologies. So there are things like seeing a red dot on Instagram. It's sort of known and exploited and done on purpose that our bodies react certain ways, like we release endorphins when we see the red dot of likes, or this kind of stuff. And that's how a lot of those things act on us, or when we see a kind of 60% off, you know, TK Maxx, whatever, that all this stuff impacts our bodies as well as our minds and our bank accounts. And so it's what can you do stop that happening, to give yourself some space or capacity.
And what about to reverse it so that we can be somatically active in the right way, as apart from being on the receiving end of it, being on the delivering end of somatic activism?
Yeah, well, so it's both things. It's not like letting, social media push you around or big corporations push you around, but also not just being flattened by the magnitude of the thing, because I'd be meeting people all the time and working with people all the time. You just retired to bed for 6 months.
The horror.
Yeah.
I saw someone the other day saying, the human mind isn't really built for seeing as much as that we see today.
Yeah.
I mean, if you use social media, I'm terribly addicted to Instagram for all kinds of reasons, cats, elephants, etc. Radical left-wing politics as well. Yeah. But I realise that I'm becoming inured to violence. I scroll past something sometimes. During the war in Gaza, I used to stare at things, and now I can't look. I look away. I'm self-soothing with cats and elephants. But someone said to me recently, we're not supposed to actually see, or we can't. The human mind, it's over capacity. We can't take it all in. If you look at Instagram, it's like ding, 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 war, porn. It's like a nightmare. Yeah. And it's ruining our brains.
Yeah. And our bodies and our whole nervous systems. Fucked by it. Yeah. And then we're told that the only way to respond to that, if we want it to be different, is through the correct channel. So like no activism, no fuss, no, whatever. You have to become a politician, get votes, persuade everyone that this is a really good idea, and then you're allowed to do it or whatever. You're not allowed to go rogue,
Well, I think, were you saying, who says that?
The government that are arresting people and putting them in prison for activism, for protest. Yeah.
Okay, but we are watching, even though we're in desperate times, there are flashes of, we've got Zach Polanski, who's doing incredible work, and Ramdani in New York, and Hannah the Plumber, who we hope is going to win tonight.
Yes, 4 a.m.
Is anyone watching the election in Manchester? There are rogue things, there are unexpected things happening.
Yeah, but I mean, they're amazing because they're correct channel rogue things. So they're very, very interesting to watch. Yeah, but basically they're doing it properly, and it's really amazing. So this kind of rogue stuff isn't to say that it's not good to do it that way, but it's like the Merlin Sheldrake thing, like, sneezes, orgasms and financial crashes all have the same mathematical logic. And so how do we make something like that
happen?
Yeah. Yep.
How do we do it, Anouchka? Do you know? Do you know?
I think we're all trying. I mean, I think this is the theory. It's like all the correct channels are being closed off, because if you're being told you have to do it the correct way, then they know how to stop you. They're like, well, this is the correct way, now we know which road to block. So this is the idea of a sort of freak politics or whatever, is just don't do it their way. Don't, like the message to children, learn to be a kind of climate scientist and then we'll listen to you when you're 30. Fuck, man, that's not helpful. And so, so it's about that.
So we kind of need non-conditioned minds to be thinking up non-conditioned structures, or to decondition our minds so that we can start thinking in a way that's outside of what we know already or what we can see. Is sort of advocating that kind of thing. But also I wouldn't want it to seem like it was a mystery, like you have to do loads of really weird shit like in that book to get there. Because there are loads of people doing it without doing any of that stuff. Like the thing in Minneapolis recently was an amazing example of people coalescing, and communities of people, churches, choirs, neighbours. When's this? In Minneapolis with the ICE thing. Exactly. Yeah, and they won. Yeah, and they won, and they did not need to go on a retreat. And so to get there or to do anything special, they just did that because they love each other and like each other and want to hang out with each other, and they like their city. Yeah, they did that. It was a pop-up protest that lasted for 3 weeks or something. It's one of the most hope-giving things of recent times. And I saw someone said they picked a fight with winter people in the winter. Yeah, exactly. I was like, sometimes there's a bit of fluke luck involved as well. Yeah. But sometimes there's a point of no return, where the masses have gone past being afraid, you know. And I think we have seen a lot of that. People no longer, arrest no longer being a deterrent, enough of a deterrent. And we've seen all kinds of things recently, you know, people just thinking, I'm not frightened enough. You can take me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You can take me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And maybe this stuff is a bit more about that. Like, how do you get to be that? How do you get to be less afraid?
I'm 60 now, and it's coming. It comes as your life comes behind you, and it's like, you can't take my career away from me. It's done, and everyone knows I haven't. You know, you can take me, kind of thing. Yeah. You can't ruin as you get older. You can't ruin my life now. There's less. Yeah. There are less job applications for me to fill in. There are less, you know, panels. Yeah, I think age helps, but I also wonder, I'm watching the Americans, because the Americans, let's get on to decolonisation as well.
Can I change this situation? I feel like a fake, because I'm talking like this. And talking about somatics and being controlled. Okay. And I'm literally being controlled.
I want to sit here like this. So we were talking earlier on the phone, and we were saying about, you know, the Americans, they had to fight for their civil rights in recent history, you know, 2 generations ago, and they had the plantation system was on American soil. They had to think about critical race theory. They had to think about they had to deconstruct whiteness, race, all of these things. Whereas in this country, we also had plantations, but they were offshore. They were in the Caribbean. They were in other countries. So we did have plantations, but they weren't. We didn't see them when it was all happening. So our relationship to race is, I think it's lagging. It's lagging. You know, the Americans are really sharp. They're really articulate. Young white people in schools are educated. They made up the rules in which to win the fight, and it kind of comes over here. But it took the internet before the winds of these discussions floated over. Only academics would read about critical race theory. Now it's all floating over. Yeah. Here we're still a bit clunky, aren't we? And it's still very awkward to talk about race and white privilege blind spots. And I think things need to change that way. Where are you with all of this? Yeah. Because it's not just decapitalising our minds, it's decolonising our minds, exactly. Which means having a really broad look at ourselves. Yeah, and at gender as well. Taking in everything. Yeah. And also, we English people are colonised. We don't own our land, we don't own our country. Who owns it all? Yeah, so it's exactly about this stuff. How do you come at this stuff if you're so, you know, you're born into it, you're immersed in it, you haven't been taught to see outside it? How are you going to do it? So it's not that but it is about sort of whiteness and racialization from all directions. Like, how can you think that stuff? How can you live that stuff? And can you make it move? How could you make it move? And the white fragility thing is totally real. Like, I did a big white fragility, you know, under Shirley's gaze at the beginning of the book. That's it. And, you know, I could have stayed there. And I'm not saying that I've, you know, completely come out at all. I'm not, you know, gonna whatever. What made you come out of it? What made you not stay there? Well, she showed me a way out in the bar afterwards. Okay. Yeah. Very she generously. Gave you a path, a way out. Fucking generously. Yeah. She did a thing that not many people would do, or know how to do, or have the presence of mind to do. Okay. Yeah. And so it's about that kind of stuff. The whole book, I think, is about that. Is about a middle way, or a third way? Yeah, and a practice, a philosophy and a practice. Practice. Yeah, that can't just be a philosophy, and it can't just be a practice, because if it's just a philosophy, it's sort of desiccated, and it's like, what the fuck is that? Yeah, it's all theory. If it's just a practice, people are going to say, what are you doing, you hippie twat? And so you have to have a philosophy and a practice, and then maybe there's hope. Does that make sense to everybody out there? Are you on board? You have to do the stuff, do the reading, do the thinking, get awkward, get uncomfortable, and look widely. at issues around social injustice and where we are with it. Yeah. So that is kind of where you are with it.
Yes.
As well as, so let's talk about inner prepping. Let's talk about, she did make that word up. Okay, what is inner prepping?
Yeah, it started off as a kind of a joke at Kairos. It was a serious joke, but Kairos is this club in Tottenham Court Road that's really amazing, and it's a sort of cross-pollinating place where all the people, maybe some of you go, I don't know, but people, all different kinds of, I don't know, academics and activists and people go there to talk and present ideas, and so you get, oh, how nice. There's eco-justice lawyers and JSO activists and all sorts of, you know, eco-philosophers, and go to talk about stuff. But they would keep saying, we could do all this amazing, you know, degrowth and negative interest and all this stuff if only people were slightly different. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's good, but how could people be different in that way? And so it's sort of, yeah, how do you think about altering your interior life without that seeming like a really sinister social engineering project? Like, what would incentivize people to actually be different so all these things would be possible? And so the idea of inner prepping, it's sort of a joke and not a joke, because prepping is like when you know, have all the baked beans and toilet paper in your attic, and that's not very communitarian unless you're doing that because you want to share it. But it's, yeah, getting ready for the fact that we're being told, like the government report that was suppressed and redacted recently says that by the mid-2030s, things are going to be really, really shit. Like, if you think it's bad now, just wait.
It's getting worse, yeah.
Yeah, wait for that. And so people need to prepare, but what kind of preparation could it be? And it seems to be around things like fearlessness and courage, rather than about hoarding and getting a gun and protecting your goods.
Yeah, I mean, I've just finished a novel, and I'm really interested in just this old-fashioned idea that love is going to become something that we discover as a resource. That love is sort of, yeah, we all, you know, we love our friends and our family and our partners and our pets, but love actually is, you know, we see love and affection in mammals, we see love and affection. I mean, someone's talking about bees. Bees are all, you know, work in a loving way. It's systemic. It's through nature. It's part of sacred discourse across the world. And love and hope. I mean, Joanna Macy writes about hope, active hope, being actively training ourselves away from sort of insipid, passive optimism. Oh, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. Like,
everything's going to be fine. Just business as usual. Get to the middle of the year. Get to next year. Whereas Joanna Macy talks about, well, she's been talking about this great turning, hasn't she?
Yeah.
She was talking about that. But love, you're right, courage, fearlessness, love, hope. These are kind of they're not given any weight, are they?
No, exactly. And yeah, there are all these questions about how do you tell people about bad stuff? Because if you just hit people over the head with it, then it looks like they shut down. And there are all those tests around it. You know, if you show people images of a climate apocalypse, then what do they do afterwards? And very often they buy luxury goods. And so how do you counter that? Because if you just, you know, smash the message down on people, then that's awful.
You can't scare people green.
No, you can't.
So scaring people doesn't really work. And the other thing is dropping information. You know, the IPCC has been report after report after report. And they fall nowhere. You can't.
Yeah.
So there's certain ways that don't work, which is why I believe in the novel, and I believe what people like is emotionality. If you can move people, people suddenly feel weird. You know, that kind of feeling that you get, that's irrational, that you've suddenly gone from A to B because you're just watching something, that is impact. Being, like you said, scared or whacked or punished or told, these don't work, do they?
No. This is the thing that I heard actually in our hippie world.
Okay, we're going to get onto this.
Yeah, but if you're going to tell the truth, you have to keep the truth relational. You can't just whack people with the truth. You have to be in a thing.
You have to.
Yeah, and I guess in Minneapolis, like, why would you go and stand up to really scary armed people. It's because you're in a community of love where you really, really care about each other, and that's what would get you out there. So it's relational.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. This is what we're going to have to. This is what we've come to in advanced. How we're going to fight the far right, fascism. I mean, it's kind of working. We are seeing this, aren't we? We're seeing clashes between people going England first, and then on the other side they're sort of dancing. They're sort of people disco dancing or dressed as frogs. Have you seen the Portland frogs? I mean, they're fantastic. I mean, who would have thought the revolution would be an army of frogs? I mean, totally fantastic. It's kind of what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, who would have thought?
Yeah.
The woo.
Yeah, it's this non-linear thing, I guess, that if you come at it in a linear way, you'll get very frustrated and it won't go well.
Yeah, so I'm with you here. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things you went out there and did. Okay, so you talk about yoga. I'm not going to go to the yoga one because no one's frightened of yoga. Yeah. Everyone does yoga. We all know about yoga. Yoga's good for us. I'd like to talk about Tamara.
Oh yeah.
Could you tell us a bit about what Tamara is, where it is, and how you got there, and a little bit about what they offer that is in this, like you said, how they organise themselves in a way that persuaded you that there's hope?
Yeah, this is a funny one because I was really in this sort of period of being super depressed and I saw a film with Zoe who runs Kairos, this club in Tottenham Court Road, and it was called The Village of Lovers, and you can see it, it's online and it's easy enough to access, but it was about a community in southern Portugal, and it was, the thing that made me love it was that it was set up by a theologian, a psychoanalyst and a physicist, and in the late 70s, and I thought that is the community for me. And they're sort of classic free love Marxist people from the 70s, but there are 3 generations of them now, and they're still there together doing their lives and developing and seeing. And it began with I feel really bad for people who came to see me before. I'm repeating myself now, but they went into the forest, 30 of them in the late 70s.
Into the forest?
Yeah.
Okay.
30 people, and said if we come out, and we've got no rules at all, but if we come out of this alive 3 years later, then we'll know something about what it is to be human. And so they all went into the forest and slept with each other and fought with each other and kind of just saw, like, what is there if you reduce life to just this. And so it's a kind of research study project where you just like see your reactions, see other people's reactions, think about politics from like the ground up. It's not sort of imposing big political ideas on people, but just put some people together, leave them to it and see what they can organise amongst themselves. And yeah, it's a very bold experiment. But the fact that they're still doing it, all this time later, made me really, really curious about them. And the fact that they think of everything, so it's not just, whatever, free love Marxism, but they're also thinking about water retention, landscapes. They're thinking about, how you treat animals. They do buy their pasta from Aldi, but apart from that, they sort of, and even that, they treat that as a kind of real, flaw in their plan. It's like, it's not perfect yet, we still have to buy our pasta from Aldi, but we're working on it. Like, they're really trying to see what life could be and how it could be put together. And
can you talk a little bit about the communication with animals? Yeah, they do this great course about communicating with animals, something I'm very interested in, because something about being watched and not knowing what they think, and like there's so much there for us to think about. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is the deepest woo. Like, everything else is mild compared to this one. But I just sort of thought, if you're in, then keep going. So it was at Tamara, and I'd been to quite sensible things at Tamara in a way around activism and blah. But this course was about animal communication, and they make amazing claims that I think that, well, they're true claims. They're not lying, but they control their rat population. without any poisons or toxins or whatever. They control their bed bug. They got rid of bed bugs just using their own techniques. And so I wanted to know what those techniques were. I was curious. And also there was a woman there, so they grow herbs and salads and stuff. And they've got wild boar, and the wild boar are allowed everywhere. So the little babies are kind of running around when you're having lunch and all this stuff, but they're not tame at all, they're wild. But she wanted to grow herbs, and she didn't want to have fences, and so she just communicated somehow with the wild boar, like, please don't eat my herbs. And she said she would do the gardening in front of them, and she would see them watching her, and she thought that they kind of got it. They're like, those plants must be important to that woman because she spends a lot of time with those plants, so we won't eat those plants. And so she was like, well, they don't eat my herbs, so I must be doing something right. Like, what is this? And so the whole thesis there is basically that that's possible. And that's the case with all animals.
About they wrote a letter to the rats expressing solidarity, and that worked.
This is amazing.
It's so simple, but it's like, of course they want our solidarity.
No, it's more amazing than that, because they had rats in the kitchen, and they were like, we need to get rid of these rats, but we've got to do it the right way. So they wrote a letter to the rats, saying, we want to live in solidarity with you, how can we do that? And then they woke up the next morning and the rats had pissed all over the word solidarity. so they were like, the rats have spoken.
The rats have spoken.
Yeah, and they were saying, yes, that's true. We're not in solidarity with each other. We need to shape up. And so they did. Oh. And then the rats left them alone. But I mean, presumably when they started to work in solidarity, they put the lids on the jars better. But that's fine, you know, that's how they reached that conclusion. But when I was there, I was so impacted by this stuff. I was just thinking, how can this be? Like, they spoke about the bed bugs, because they survive on visitors. And, you know, you can't really have lots of visitors coming if you've got bed bugs, but they were not going to fumigate, like, no. So they equally, you know, same as all the other animals, they psyched them out of the dormitories using a shrine and encouragement and prayer and, you know, energy transmission, and they got rid of the bed bugs. Wow. Yes. So that is a lot for a modern secular person.
Again, it's more about thinking differently. It's about stop with the linear thinking, rational thinking. Has anyone here read Ian McGilchrist, The Master and His Emissary? So he's just got such, have you read it? This fantastic theory where the left brain, which is ration, reason, thinking, planning, all of that stuff, you know, this kind of thinking has basically dominated. Yeah. And that's why we're in such trouble. Because basically that's been valued, that's how we think. And the right brain, which is a slightly bigger, emotion, woo, love, hippie shit, all of that stuff is in the right brain. And it should be the master, but it's in service to the left brain. That's McGilchrist's theory. I really like that theory. Yeah. It makes complete sense that there's something that we're good at which is being suppressed. Yeah. Which is losing out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anyone else like that idea? It kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's super good. And also, so this is the thing about inner prepping, that I suppose it's not that, you know, that I've gone away and thought, oh, this is how people can prep themselves. But it's about, if you're in a community where people don't have bed bugs and the wild boar don't eat their herbs, and the rats are not in the kitchen,
the rats are in
what are you going to think? Are you going to think they are dippy idiots? Yeah. Or are you going to think, well, something's happening here that is interesting and I should take it seriously? And that is a form of anti-racism, even though these are like white German people with, you know, terrible problems with white body supremacy and heteronormativity, etc. Like, these people are not perfect, but they're doing the bits of the experiment that they can do. Yeah. And it's like all this, there's a bit about a book called The States of the Earth in the book, but it's about secularization and how you destroy a culture, and often the way you destroy it most effectively
with your left brain, with that rational,
get
civilizing
rid of the
people.
religion.
Civilizing.
Yeah. So this is about that. So that would be a kind of inner prepping, like, are you prepared to think that these people are for real about the way they treat animals, the way they see a mountain, the way they do, whatever.
Yeah, totally. I mean, even when I would probably describe myself, it's hard even for me to, I often say, I'm a bit of a hippie, bit woo, and actually those are really degrading words to use about myself, because it's, it's internalizing this mocking of actually intuition, the sacred, the holy, ritual making, femininity, being able to make things from nothing, manifestation, all this stuff, we mock it now. We're mocking this,
Yeah.
How do you think we got here? This is stuff that we need to stop mocking and reclaim.
Yes.
And think differently.
Exactly. And this is a really important...
Yeah. No, we get into Tantra.
Yeah. No, it's so funny. When I talk with you, we get quite far.
Yeah, okay.
But, this is a thing of inner prepping, I think, is that cringe is a really important pillar of social control. And if you can't get over your cringe, then you're a puppet. You're suppressed. And so that would be another absolutely sort of important strand of what it might need to become possible to do, is to stop having cringe, stop thinking it's stupid, stop being embarrassed, about all this stuff, and actually just take it seriously.
Take a step into that direction.
Yeah.
Which brings us to a mutual world that we share. So we've just finished actually an 18-month training in Western Neo-Tantra, which has also been on the receiving end of an awful lot of, left brain critique and, negative whatever. And maybe that's changing, because I know when I did it a long time ago, everybody was like, English kind of squeamishness around sex, and, do you take your clothes off? And a bit, I couldn't do that. And just lots and lots of mocking and laughing at things that have to do with sexuality and sex, and laughing without even knowing what they're talking about. Do you want to talk a little bit about, well, I'm going to quote you actually. You said, "It's fished you out of your neurotic, self-hating cesspool of late modernity, but you had these dreams of finding an extra room in your house, and that Tantra's given you this extra room in yourself."
Yeah.
Say more. Can you say more?
Yes.
How did this all happen?
Yeah.
With woo-woo sex.
Yeah. Tantra is really hard. It's amazing. We sign these NDAs, like non-disclosure agreements, when we study Tantra. But it's amazing, because it would be really difficult to disclose it anyway, because it's an experiential thing. It's not like you can just go away and say, oh, this happened and this is why it happened. Like, we did this and because of that, and we came out like that. It's a really difficult thing to get across. So this is why all this left brain stuff, right brain stuff is really important. It's like you're using your brain and your body in a completely different way. And anything you will have heard, like I tried to find out about it, because you told me about it first. You were like, Tantra
It's very hard to...
Yes.
Yeah.
And I went away to look it up online. I was reading all these Vice articles about people going to wherever, flying very far away to do very expensive retreats. And I was just like, wow, that sounds shit, But you were very like, no, but this thing, this Jan Day, the way she teaches is amazing.
It's
and
very
true.
strong.
Yeah.
And she's very wise. It's very rare to meet someone with her amount of experience.
Yeah.
And she's worked in all, she's had a teacher.
Yeah.
She's connected to Osho Sri Rajneesh, who's obviously been extremely denigrated, probably the worst guru in the world. She spent a lot of time with him, learned a lot with him, spent a lot of time exploring psychedelic drugs, which have only recently become a lot more socially acceptable. And you have to walk through the door, don't you?
Yeah.
You have to submit.
Yes. So the thing, I don't know, when I try and think about what was it about, what was it about?
Yeah.
So there's one thing they say, don't they, very forcefully, at some point they're like, no one gets left behind. You're in this group of 50 people doing whatever it is you're doing. It's every opportunity to love each other, hate each other, fancy each other, envy each other, do whatever, the whole range of possible kind of human experience is there to be had, and you are having it, and it's hardcore. And then there are things like, I arrived as a really sort of classic stroppy feminist, which, you know, I still am, but there were maybe men there that was a bit like, oh, you know, get away from me, you're awful. But then this thing, no one gets left behind, and how do you put that together? Like, who, you know, I want to leave those men behind, you know, in that mindset. And what could it be? Like, what could I find in those men, and what could they find in me that would enable me to see them as, you know, I love this word Sonder, this German word, meaning like you see a passerby and you realise that their humanity, their unconscious, their history, their everything is like every bit as real as yours, that you see them for 1 second, but that is some, you know, whole other being. And it's really easy for us to forget that, to feel like we're the protagonist of our own story. And that's how we live our lives, and I'm a grumpy feminist and you're a bad man, and you know, so what would it be like to undo that and to see whatever, a man who's pissing you off, who's trying to whatever, get something from you, what would it be like to really access each other's humanity and really see each other and really be with each other and really accept each other? And to do that over a year and a half with 50 other people is hardcore. People who you really think you cannot stand. You're just, oh. And we both
Well, I remember thinking that I went in, so I've done this training twice, and I think when I first met Jan, I was a really brittle, straight, judgy, stuck-up, uptight person, and I was very straight and very kind of like, this is who I am, and it just broke a piece, like breaking Iceland off, you know, it just broke a chunk of that off, and I was never the same again. And again, it's an 18-month training. You're never going to learn much in 7 days. It was like relentless, you know, you're going back 10 times again and again for more stuff that will just break you down and break you down and break that sort of person down who thought she knew who she was. And then all of a sudden you find your humanity in there somewhere, because I don't know about any other woman in this room, but from the age of 14, you know, I've put the armour on because it's a really good idea to put that armour on, because it will make me safe, you know. And that armour gets stuck on, and then you use the armour wherever you go, even when it's not appropriate. You go put the armour on to go to the loo. You know, you go to someone lovely grandparents. You've got the armour on. You've got the armour on all the time. And Jan, you know, and then you realise you don't always need it, and then other people aren't so bad, and then you're bad. There's such a lot to learn, and then, you know, you see everybody, that's what's happening to us all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it is amazing because we both do Buddhism in different ways in different schools. But if you go to Dharma talks or whatever, you learn about, you know, the precepts and the right ways and
speaking,
thinking, exactly, sort of
Yeah.
how to be a decent human being. And it's really nice, and I love having that stuff explained to me schematically. It's great. It's really helpful. I agree. I'm like in, but you know, there's this thing about the left-hand path and the right-hand path to enlightenment. And so this is a kind of right-hand path, nice explanations, be a good person, you know, don't, whatever, hurt people, don't sexually misuse them, don't, whatever. But,
sexual misconduct is a Buddhist precept.
Yeah, exactly. So
right
it's really
there.
good. You can grasp that. Yeah, good. I agree. But if you're doing Tantra, which is considered the left-hand path, which is considered a faster way to enlightenment, you're not just thinking, oh yeah, that's a good idea. You're like having to hit it head on multiple times a day in the most intense ways you've ever experienced it. It's like what triggers you, in what ways are you an arsehole, and my God.
I think so you go on a sort of sacred sexuality journey, and there's those 3 little letters, S-E-X, sex, and you think, sex? oh my God. And it's not about that at all.
It's just
the
not,
sex bit,
yeah.
you kind of, there's quite a lot of nudity. That's the least of it.
Yeah.
You come up against your humanity and my lack of humanity
Yeah, and
again and again and again.
Yeah.
And it just took me apart twice in different times of my life. So I was dying in menopause. I was like, oh God, you know, I'm so fat and I've got no sex drive anymore and it's just awful. And it dismantled that. It just took that apart. You know, so it's, so again, this idea of looking, if you really want something, there is a way. There is a way, isn't there? And it's not what you think it is.
It's not what you think it is,
Opening a door.
exactly. Yeah, and I suppose this sort of modern atomization and the way we're separated from each other and the way we do our housing and the way we do our love lives and the way we just do stuff is, like
it's
we're
wrong-minded.
kept apart. Yeah, and so in this way of really not being apart from people and really seeing what's there on a grand scale when you're not separate in that way. That's, incredibly rare experience. And it's a shame that it's
but you
so
have
rare.
to want it and go for it. You have to be prepared to go, I'm not okay currently. I am not okay. Which isn't the same as saying I'm unhappy or, you know, other forms of not being okay. I kind of have to get to that cliff edge when you go, this isn't good enough.
Yeah,
I'm not, I can't stand it any longer being here. And then the door kind of opens, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I love this thing in Buddhism as well, like whether you're doing it for yourself or whether you're doing it for the other, and in the end that just completely melts. And so with the first, is it Theravada, you're sort of trying to feel a bit better. With Mahayana, you're going more for bringing all sentient beings with you, and then Tantra is the mad one, which is something else again. But it's, that if you want to feel better, it's not just because you want to feel better, but because you'll be a better agent. Like if you know, suddenly there's a ICE agent in your street, you might act better.
Yes.
If you've
for the goodness
done
of
a lot
everybody
thinking.
else as well. Let's talk a bit about integration. And this is where we're going to probably wrap up as well, because we have been talking for a while, but I don't know about you, but if you do something for 18 months, it does stay.
Yes.
How do you talk in the book about you would go off and do something that was like really, really strong and it would last for 4 days. Can you talk a bit about this idea about getting off a certain track and getting somewhere else, but also being able to stay on that track that you found?
Yeah, but this, can I say something fast as well?
Yeah.
Because I just think, I feel really conscious that when we talk about this stuff and about Tantra, to just sort of reinforce the idea that this stuff in the book is not about like trying to make everyone else join the cult. that sometimes I feel like I'm selling Tantra to people and going, wow, this is a really good one, or you must go to Tamara and like talk to some rats, and you must do that. And it really isn't.
Write letters to rats.
Like whatever gets you there, gets you there. But so there are all sorts of different ways, and there are people doing this work without needing any kind of special plea. Like I think I'm a difficult white person who needed a fucking big shake, and that there are other people less privileged than me who are doing this stuff anyway. Like it's integrated into their lives. Yeah. And so so this thing of integration could mean all sorts of different things, but it basically, if you get stuck on doing retreats and thinking that that's the work, but you don't do anything in your life particularly different, then you come back and go, oh, everybody's so mean in this world and I hate it, and I'm going to go back to my retreat and see where, you know, where it's fun and nice and everyone's proper.
I think what
that seems to be the risk, or what people,
you're kind of advocating for is for, like you said, deconstructing something that we don't even know was put there. Yeah. So like you said, we weren't even consenting when we grew up inside in industrialized capitalism. So we've been conditioned a certain way to, like you said, hoard, eat a certain way, not share, blah, blah, blah. And if we can find a way out of it, whichever way it is, it doesn't have to be the way Anouchka's writing about. You don't have to go to a Tantra class. Whatever it takes. The idea being, how do we not get sucked? How do we stay where we're happy?
Yeah.
How do we stay where we're hopeful, where we're kind to each other, where we do organise more communally, where we do think of community rather than self? How do we kind of do that in the face of such an atomised world that we live in?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
What's your practice for staying good?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure I do, but I suppose it's this philosophy and practice thing that, like, to be really alert to systemic injustice would be like absolutely central to it. And then if you go and do contact improv dancing alongside that, then you can use, the things you learn from CI and touching other bodies and moving in certain unconstrained ways, then you can start to put something together. So I'd say, keep it really broad, but I think the sort of political systemic stuff is really, really important. Like, how does patriarchy work? How does colonialism work? How do all those things...
How did all
sort of stay?
Grow.
How do they keep their kind of claw on us all?
Yeah.
And then you can do the hippie stuff and have a really nice time as well.
Okay. So we've been talking for a long time, and I'm hoping that we've there are questions that might be coming as well. This is the part where you get to ask Anouchka or me,
Monique.
but mostly Anouchka. Anything that's been stuck or you'd want to bring up or ask about, now's a good time.
Yeah.
And the idea being, you put up your hand and either say it loudly enough, or you can come up and use the mic and say it into the mic. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. And
any
it doesn't have to be a
questions?
question either. It could be an observation.
Yes.
I'm interested in this idea of consenting to a system, and so what would not consenting look like? Because it just seems, aren't we always? I mean, is there any state, pre-industrial capitalism, what people are consenting, were people then consenting? You're always born into something.
Yeah.
And you're not like you're always going to be determined. You're always going to be fashioned and shaped by something.
Of course.
So where are the limits of this consent?
Yeah, so this, I don't know if I'm blurring your question, because I like it as a super pure good question, but a lot of systems that people are born into are not extracting from other people's systems in the same way that ours is, are not destroying ecosystems, are not destroying other ways of life. And so it's particular to us, I think, in this system that we need to wake up to it and how it does it and what it's doing, because this system is so destructive. If you're living in a less destructive system, it might be less imperative to do something about it. Like, live in your dream, live in your system, live in that reality, and that's fine. But our reality is really impacting other people's reality. So meeting Shirley Krenak and seeing how the way, I consume, I watch television, I drive, well, actually I don't drive, but if I did, but seeing how all that stuff impacts directly what happens to her and her culture is like, okay, I'm not all right with that. And so it's, it can be a really nice philosophical question about reality, but this is something else, because this is about the destruction of a planet and the destruction of people's lives. That's how I think about that.
I thought the comment about how showing people climate destruction doesn't help them. They won't go in the other direction. And a lot of the practices you're talking about and the kind of hopes you're talking about are very much deconstructive. Like, how do you undo our minds? How do you undo our habits of thought? But I wonder what your thoughts are about the importance of having an image of what we're heading toward. And even the Tamara people seem to be pretty unclear about what they're heading toward. They just want to survive.
Yes.
So what's the use, or is there a place for really utopian visions, or really clear kind of maybe right-hand discussions of who you want to be at the end of this process, rather than I'm not going to be what I am any longer?
Yeah, totally. There are amazing books about this stuff, like this book, Hospicing Modernity, because it's not like if you come at this with a pre-formed plan and say it's got to be this, then it's probably not going to go that way. You have to get everybody on board and whatever. But the idea is that these systems are collapsing anyway for numerous reasons. And so how are you going to manage that collapse in a way that's sort of the least horrific it can be? And so ideas around community or love or whatever are really, really important in holding something. But I love all the hybrid ideas like solar punk or whatever, like what do we do with the technology we've got? It does exist, and it's not just to be a Luddite and say everything has to go. So how do you sort of melt and morph in ways that are habitable, rather than just thinking collapse is going to be a horror and we're just going to steal each other's stuff and kill each other and that's the way it's going to go. So it's not a sort of fully formed utopia, and it's not a horror apocalypse, but it's this kind of managed melt, where there are some principles that hold something in place for people, but there's also scope for lots of difference, I think. Thank you.
Over there?
Yeah.
And I can understand how that can be a ripple effect. I was recently in a community with many other communities around, and I found it was really hard to pass questions around what's going on in the world. A lot of the time, there was I don't want that energy.
Yeah.
But the idea of consumerism and what was comfortable for them was still very much there. So how best to navigate that when you find the communities are still that similar pull towards the systems?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, absolutely, that's what you see all the time when you go into those communities. And this is the question, how not to kind of reinforce harm or to just reproduce the same thing, like try and do something else and just do exactly the same thing again, but a kind of mirror image of it or whatever. And that's the real risk with all this stuff, with the expensive tantra retreats or whatever it is. Yeah, it can just, and that's why I think the thing of understanding the whole kind of systemic thing, being really politicized about it and why you would be doing it, seems to be a really important aspect of it. Otherwise it is just floating off into whatever, and probably taking a long haul flight to do it. Yeah, I saw one of the most wooest of the woo people, this guy Richard Rudd, I don't know if you've come across him. He's amazing.
He's great, yeah.
Oh my God, but he's like out there top woo, isn't he?
Yeah.
But we went to see him.
Didn't he do the keys?
Yeah.
Is he the keys guy?
Yeah, Gene Keys.
Gene Keys.
God. Yeah. So we saw him talk at the Medicine Festival on the kind of future human.
He's where I get Dragonfly from.
Okay, amazing. So at the end of that talk, after, like he's, out in the cosmos. But he says you only need to get your chakras aligned once, and then you need to do something socially useful. And even if Richard Rudd says that,
do you know, I live with an activist just up oil. She's been arrested numerous times and she couldn't come. She really wanted to, and she said, the best bit in that book was when she said that quote.
Oh, right,
that you only need to get. She says, I've done my inner work. She says, and I'm off.
Yeah.
I was like, that is the message of your book. Really is like, do some work, move on. Yeah, get going.
Yeah, if you get stuck there, which it's very seductive. I totally see how a person could get stuck there. But
what people do. People do. They're on their retreat man or retreat woman.
Yeah, exactly. That's so real. Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else? Yes.
Is the conscious evolution. So fair trade, so think about how we're treating human life from eco-politics. We're thinking about ecocide and, about the laws, about the earth, how we eat, how we live, how we're connecting. And she believed this was just going to happen on a groundswell. So you'll get government, you'll get journalists, you'll get people who are developing themselves and going to India, and everybody connecting like you this was going to emerge, not top down, ideally
Yeah.
top would do marvellous things, but this would emerge and come up.
Yes.
And that all these movements, fair trade, equality,
Yeah.
politics, therapy, and whatever you like, would be part of the change, and also the technology. So,
Yeah.
you know, people have medbeds and, you know, bioresonance, you name it, the technology is growing, growing, growing.
Yeah.
That we may need things in very different ways, or even understand how our bodies are machines that can heal with different ways of aligning. And so she believed that all these movements, these lovely
Yeah.
activisms, is part of
Yeah, totally.
everything
Yeah.
is emerging and changing.
Yeah,
And
but
we see it, and we'll just be growing, 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 and this
yeah. I agree with everything except that, you know, we read all the news reports saying there's 7 years ago there were 12 years to turn the carbon economy around, and that was, you know, so now there's 5 and it's not happening. There's 50 more harvests at the current rate of consumption. So there is a time limit, and there are also big tech real people, accelerationists who are like, want to piss all over that, who just want to smash it to smithereens. And so just being kind of relaxed and thinking if we're all nice, it's going to go the right way. See, yeah, I know that, yeah, oh, I hope that's true, yeah, but I think taking a really active role is a good idea. Yeah, but when I hear it is happening, I think, okay, it is happening, but it might be happening in me, but could I speed it up a bit, or is there something that could, rather than just, because there's all this stuff like techno-optimism or whatever, all these ways of telling people, don't worry, you know, it's going to be okay, it is happening, things are going the right way. And that stuff makes me nervous, because definitely, yeah. 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 Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I hope it's a sort of anti-hate process, or I mean, don't hate the people who are voting for reform in Gorton today, and it's not about smashing anything, but it's also about working with a quite scary time frame. Yeah.
There's another question over there as well that I saw, this lady, yeah.
That's good.
Just wondering about the kind of the self, the importance of the self. And in this moment in which we are bombarded, part of our problem, as you were saying, I think, right, is the focus on the self. All the time, the neoliberal productive self, the better human being, one who does yoga, who goes to tantra retreats, who, you know, who is good to the planet. And I wonder, like, I can think of other cultures, I know a bit about like Latin American political cultures where the self doesn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly.
It does.
Yeah.
But the self is interdependent, basically, that word, right?
Yeah.
So that we don't exist, we don't go out of society to become better selves, to then re-engage with society and save it.
Yeah.
Because of our guilt or whatever.
Yeah.
We understand that we only really meaningfully exist in interdependence.
Totally.
But kind of like making bread and doing everyday stuff, right? Not necessarily doing kind of workshops.
Totally.
Super important.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm just a bit like concerned about the kind of, like stepping outside. And I understand it, obviously. I've done some, you know, various retreats as well, and I understand their value. But how much you then, I know you're saying this, right? But re-engage as well.
100%. I don't think anybody needs to go on any retreats ever. This is why I'm really saying, like, nobody needs to do what I did. Like, how you get there is how you get there. There are people doing it out of necessity, like, because they need, they need community, they need love, they need resources, they need to pull together. People do that because they need it. That's survival. And in a way, for privileged Western people, that's often not the case. And that's how maybe you need something to sort of break you open a bit or make something move a bit faster. But absolutely, oh my God, I don't think a retreat for every human on earth. That would be a fucking nightmare. That's like the worst thing that could ever happen.
But
So yeah, it's about real life.
Yeah. I mean, I think I heard the word interconnectedness. Why did I hear? I mean, that is kind of what has been broken. This idea that we're all connected, and we don't need to go on a retreat to find that out. But it has been in some way dissuaded out of us. You know, we don't necessarily see it. I was having a bit of an argument with the woman who owns the flat above me, because she's constantly renting, and I said, oh, you know, we've got a community WhatsApp, and it's a residential community. I kept using the word community with her, and she wrote this really stiff email back, not everybody wants to be in the community, you sound very controlling.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
point taken.
Yeah.
But community is really what we do all need right now, because we've been divided up, we've been split up.
Yeah, and I think for
Like
me,
split the gang up.
Yeah, that I'd been sort of living with all these ideas around interconnectedness, writing about ecology for like since I was 20, but still something wasn't completely landing or breaking, or there was just, you know, that I was so inside this other system that it was really, really fucking difficult to shift it. And you never know what it would take or how to do it, and that seems to be the question. So when this woman, Shirley Krenak, said this thing to me, she recognised something that I would never be able to do. She said, I see you, and there's this thing, and you could never do that. And I knew that she was right, that I couldn't, in that state, it was a thing that I wouldn't be able to do, and it was a thing that required patience, it was a thing that required sort of care and love, and exactly a feeling of oneness, and a sort of non-acquisitive, non-goal oriented thing. And so I just got super curious about, like, well, I talk about this all the time, but I don't really do it. So what would it take to get a bit nearer to being able to do it? Yeah.
There's someone over here. This might be the final question, because we're coming to the end and there's book signing. Yes, but go ahead.
First of all, thanks so much. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
And it's kind of reinforced a belief, which I think we all probably have, is that then there's many more people on the good side of the road than the bad side of the road. And that love and compassion is a part of what makes us all tick. And that I work with Claire Farrell and the Humanity Project. And that sense of, on the bad side of the road, there are many less people. Few people, get that wrong. And he'd been really honest about saying that don't join the cult. So the danger is a kind of fragmentation of love down to an individual level. And is it possible? So the question is it possible to have that humanity but also be political? Or is there a kind of line which is so difficult to cross between the sense of love and the sense of action? A personal love and compassion against a sense of collective action. How do we get over that? Because otherwise we really are in the shitstorm.
Yeah, exactly. But I suppose all this thing, like the real campaign for citizens' assemblies, or places where it's not just, you know, you vote for them and I vote for them, but a place where people actually meet each other and see why they care about those things. Like, why are those people voting for reform? It's not because they're stupid arseholes, it's because there are things that they need that they're not getting at the moment in this culture, and they're protesting against it. And so for people to actually be on the ground with each other and really understand why we're each doing the things that we're doing, just that seems hopeful to me. And I know with all the people that you're working with, there's a push towards that, which seems really, really hopeful. And I love all the ideas like sociocracy or whatever, where people kind of have to tune into each other, which I suppose with Tantra, when it's not a kind of expensive Ista retreat with some Viking dudes ripped, whatever, but it is about people just tuning into each other. That seems to be, where politics can actually happen and be a different kind of politics. Yeah, I think that's what the book's about. That's why I feel really pained if people think it's me saying go on a tantra retreat. I couldn't give a fuck. I don't, you know, for me it was good, but it's just not about that. It's about the stuff, yeah, how do people actually meet each other and recognise each other's realities and needs in a kind way. Yeah. Thankful.
I'm going to draw this to a close, and there's more conversation to be had. There's books to buy, and there'll be signing happening here at this table, and I'm sure you can keep talking, and we're not going anywhere. So I'm just going to draw this formal part of the evening to a close and say, can we just give it up for Anouchka and the new book? Thank you. Very timely.